Of outbursts and brawls have left courthouses across the country more chaotic than ever.
Wild scuffle.
Chaos in the courtroom has become a legitimate threat around the country.
Lose it in the courtroom.
At the beginning of March, this dramatic scene was captured by a security camera.
The Judicial Branch of Government's responsibility is to assure equal justice for all. That's what our Constitution provides. And we have the job, essentially, of protecting people's constitutional rights and protecting people from dangerous people in our population.
And can really become seriously dangerous if not deadly.
Go to the prosecutor.
The Court Security Commission has an obligation to promote a safe and secure environment for everyone who has business in our state courts. And it's everyone that should be involved to keep our courts safe, for a place to work, and also to conduct the state's business.
But no matter what you think about them, you had to feel awful for that attorney who got knocked out cold by his own client in a Kentucky courtroom this week. Well, the good news is public defender Doug Crickmer is out of the hospital, and he's back at the very...
I've been involved in cases where, a litigant or a witness or somebody gets out of hand, and it can be quite frightening. We have very little security around the state in our courtrooms, and by their very nature, courts are an adversarial environment in which litigants, witnesses, spectators can act out violently.
The Court Security Commission shall establish standards to protect life, property, and the judicial process in the Wyoming court system.
Wyoming courts, they must have in place appropriate security procedures, technological capabilities, appropriate staffing, and also architectural features, not only to protect the safety of those that are doing business in our courts, but also to protect the integrity of the judicial process.
And our job is then to deliver justice and to do it in a way that's safe, not only for us, but for the other people that come. But the other aspect is lots of citizens come to our courts as jurors and as witnesses, and they don't choose to come, but they come to do their service, their obligation as a citizen, and they have to come to our courts to do that.
We were listening to one of the witnesses, and all of a sudden we heard some bangs from out on the street.
Rapid-fire gunshots, fear and confusion in the courtroom, and TV cameraman Chris Howe suddenly realizes he's in the middle of an even bigger story.
It took me about 10 seconds before I figured out, holy smokes, this is a gun battle. Roll tape now.
To prevent the accused from escaping in the chaos, a bailiff grabs him and takes cover. Hysteria sets in as automatic rifle fire strafes the building from the street below.
It's just like a cannon. It's like pow, pow, pow. It rang throughout the entire square.
Outside on the courthouse steps, Maribel Estrada and her 23-year-old son David Arroyo Jr. try desperately to reach the safety of the building. Maribel is here hoping to resolve issues from an ugly divorce that's left her ex-husband David Arroyo enraged.
Can this happen in Wyoming?
I sentenced a fellow to prison recently in another county in Wyoming, and I looked around the room and there was no one to take jurisdiction over the felon that I had just sent to prison. I had to ask this man, and fortunately I got away with it. I had to ask him to have a seat in the hall, to wait for a deputy sheriff to come take him to prison. That just shouldn't happen in a Wyoming courtroom.
We just deal with a lot of people who are upset about things and I think have a potential to get out of hand.
Because of the unpredictability of the people that come before the courts, our need for additional security and safety is paramount, it's growing.
And what we don't want to do is wait until somebody is horribly injured or killed in a Wyoming courtroom.
I will serve 10 days for contempt of court. You go now.
That's really my job, is to get the job done in the courtroom. But underlying that is every judge's responsibility for the safety of every single person that walks into that courtroom.
There were 11 people in the courtroom, 2 tables, 16 chairs, and this kid slipped out of one of his handcuffs and basically started flailing around trying to hit anyone he could hit.
The real danger is in domestic cases, not criminal. And when there is a shooting in the courtroom, there tends to be a sort of informal order to it.
We want to get ahead of the bubble. We want to put in place the facilities that I have now so that everybody can be as secure as we feel we are here in Carbon County.
And that goes all the way down to, you know, the people that just come in because they're there to support family members that may be accused, the accused themselves, the deputies that transport, and ultimately citizen jurors that come into my courtroom.
Typically, it's the man that starts. He usually shoots his spouse first, then he'll shoot his spouse's attorney, then he'll shoot his own attorney, and then he'll perhaps turn on the judge if he still has ammunition left.
Courtroom violence is not just in large cities, it's also in our smaller communities.
We had chairs knocked over, table knocked over, people scrambling to get out of a narrow corridor to get out of the courtroom.
My experience with court security over the years is I've seen outbursts that do occur in the courts, and I've also seen one situation where the father of an individual who had just gotten found guilty by the jury for attempted second-degree murder, attempted to rush either the jury or the attorneys.
And so I have that responsibility, so it's always on my mind.
It was quite a commotion. You could hear it all over the top floor of the courthouse, and the bottom line is one of the gals from the clerk of court's office had to actually run down the hall to get security to come and assist us.
It could happen. It's just one of those things you think, let's just hope it doesn't happen. We know it could, let's hope it never does. And unfortunately, sometime apparently around July 29th of 2012, somebody fires a shot. And so I think what happened is it went from a theory and a possibility to the reality, and I think it just really shocked everybody statewide that's involved and concerned about court security.
We were fortunate that no one was really hurt, but it was a very dangerous situation. That handcuff attached to his wrist, as far as I'm concerned, was a pretty lethal weapon, and had it connected with someone's face, for instance, it could have really done some serious damage.
It was extremely realistic. It's real life incidents that occur in a courtroom. Something that can occur in any courtroom, anywhere, any day.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when something drastic or terrible is going to happen. Just because they're from a large city or a small city, it doesn't make any difference. If you're from a large city, you're just as violent as if you're from a small city. It doesn't make absolutely no difference.
So just because we live in Wyoming doesn't mean that those situations that happen in bigger cities won't happen here.
We deal with minimal resources. We deal with the lack of resource, and we often, quite fortunately, do with what we have. With more resource, we can increase our ability to secure the courtrooms. We can keep people safer in the courtrooms. The resources usually are not available to us until we have tragedy. And that's unfortunate in this business that we have to deal with it in that format. I do not want to see tragedy before we reach out and actually provide resources to secure our courtrooms in the state of Wyoming.
Security that we have here in Carbon County, it makes me aware, first of all, how lucky I am. And more than ever, it makes me aware of how we desperately need security in these other counties who don't currently have it.
It's not a question of if this will happen in the courtroom, it's a matter of when.
My career in law enforcement spans over 22 plus years. I retired from the Laramie County Sheriff's Department as a patrol lieutenant. I spent time in the jail as well as in patrol and in SWAT. As a SWAT member, I was a sniper, and my training through that gave me a lot of ability to assess buildings and to actually recon and figure out a way to attack a situation, whether it be with my team or how the bad guy would attack a situation. And in my travels throughout the state and looking at the different courtrooms, I can adequately say that there are several of them that are very attackable and very prone to somebody coming in and causing chaos and potential loss of life.
This isn't a theoretical problem. This is a risk and a problem that we are putting our fellow judges and our fellow citizens in, and it's real. It becomes very real to me. And I think what drove me when I saw the situation in Riverton was we cannot let something happen without having tried to solve the problem. Because these are my friends, they're my colleagues, they're people that are public servants. Every day they're serving the public, and they should not be allowed to serve the public and put themselves in their physical risk in doing the job.
So I think it's critically important that the state of Wyoming and the counties work together to find a solution to protect our court system, which is, for most people, their firsthand access to their government at all. So vitally important that we provide a safe environment for everybody to have their grievances aired.
An emergency, a disaster, or an accident affecting the state's courts can occur at any time, and usually without warning. Regardless of the cause, the result is a critical incident that must be recognized, dealt with promptly, with safety in mind for a positive outcome.
We've got to come collectively, assess what the problem is, assess what the realistic possibility is of getting the resources where they need to be, and to do it before we get that phone call, before we get a tragedy that we know we could have prevented. This responsibility is on all of our shoulders, This responsibility